This used to be our moss wall, but today we're breaking it down and turning it into a Nano Dutch aquarium. We're adding an affordable CO₂ setup and seeing just how far we can push plant growth in a tiny tank. This terrarium had a good run, but now we want to start a new project. And before breaking everything down, we'll add some of the plants into a temporary container, ready to be used again in future projects. First out, Pinnatifida. These plants look amazing, so we're definitely keeping them. Because of the wild plant growth that we had in this terrarium, now we have the luxury of not keeping every single plant. This one doesn't look great, so we won't be keeping it. Look at the size of this one. Next up, we're removing the spider wood. We won't be reusing this one because it's been in a very humid environment for a long time and it's not in the best shape anymore. We even have a little mushroom growing here. It's very interesting what little surprises you can find when you take down your terrarium. The hydrocotyl tripartita absolutely took over. We're just pulling it out at this point. It's way too much. We won't be able to keep all of it. We'll just take a little piece of the hydrocotyl tripartita and put it on top of the moss in the container. It'll continue growing here without any issues. Just look at the roots on this Pinnatifida. It's unbelievable how well these aquatic plants do in a terrarium setup. And here comes the hardscape out. We're obviously keeping this serious stone and taking some of the plants that covered it and putting them in the container. So as you can remember, this was a bioactive terrarium, which means we put springtails in it. And we just noticed that the springtails were all over the serious stone we just took out. So we want to shake it off and transfer the springtails into one of our springtail containers. Hopefully this will work. The other option would be to put the serious stone in the container, but we were worried the springtails would just cover it completely and that would really defeat the purpose of what we're trying to do. Let's take out the bark and the plants we still want to reuse. We have some healthy crypts in there that we want to keep. This container is becoming a little messy right now, with all kinds of plants piled on top of each other, but it'll do for now. It keeps the humidity right where we want it, and we'll organize everything properly a bit later. We took out everything we needed, now everything else can go, and it's time to bring a garbage bag and empty this terrarium. Let's remove the moss and the soil mix. Some of the moss is still perfectly usable, so we'll repurpose it and keep it in the container for now. The soil mix is coming off really nicely. It peels right off the glass with no effort at all. The only thing that might be tricky is the silicone we added to keep the bark in place, but hopefully a glass scraper will take care of that. And we started scooping out the soil with a small plastic cup. It worked, kind of. But in the end, it was faster to just use our hands. And finally, the tank is clean. We'll add some nutrition capsules, but first we'll add the aquasoil. We did manage to get the silicone off the back wall, but unfortunately you can still see a few marks on the glass. The good thing is, this will be a heavily planted tank, and with the heater in the back, we should be able to hide those marks. As we continue spreading the soil, we're also trying to figure out how much aquasoil we actually need, mainly thinking about the plants and what would be enough for healthy plant growth, but also where the heater and the CO2 diffuser should sit. If you can find one of these aquascaping spatulas, it makes leveling the soil a lot easier than using your hands. We might need to add just a bit more soil. We'll go ahead and add the nutrition capsules, making sure to push them in and completely cover them with aquasoil. We bought another CO₂ preset heater. We really like the one we got for our 5-liter Iwagumi tank, so we decided to get a bigger one for this 12-liter tank. It works for tanks up to 25 liters and comes preset to 25 degrees Celsius or 77 degrees Fahrenheit. We also added a small thermometer. It's always best to have one and check it regularly just in case your heater stops working or you forget to plug it in. We're also checking where to place the drop checker so we have good visibility of the CO2 levels. We'll be using CO₂ for this project because we want to create a Dutch-style aquarium and we want to push plant growth as far as possible. We found this CO₂ kit from Tropica at a really decent price, around 22 euros, and thought it was worth trying out. The kit comes with everything you need: the CO₂ powder, the activator bag, and a pretty good quality plastic diffuser. The only thing we didn't like about the CO₂ heater is the tiny suction cups. They're way too small for a heater this size, so it keeps falling down, which is super annoying. So right now we're placing the tissue culture plants in the tank to get an idea of where we want to add each plant. Next, we'll add water to the tank to soak the aquasoil and get ready for planting. We're going to start with Monte Carlo and Eleucharis pusillamini, planting them right in the foreground to hopefully create a green carpet at the front of the tank. Next, we'll plant some S. repens in the midsection of the tank. And now it's time for some color. Alternantera reinekimini goes in the middle. Fingers crossed it will turn bright red. We also picked up this plant, not sure how to pronounce this one, Schismatoglotis prietoi. We've never used this one before. We're really curious to see how it develops in the tank. We're adding another splash of color, Rotala indica bonsai. Let's see if it grows those orange accents on the leaves. With this amount of planting at once, we need to remember that the plants need to be sprayed regularly so they stay hydrated and don't dry out. Another beautifully colored plant is Rotala rotundifolia atra. This one's going a bit more toward the background, where it can grow out nicely and hopefully it will turn bright orange. Last but not least, we're adding Hygrophila lancia araguaia. This has browny red needle-like leaves and it should add another interesting pocket of color to the overall design. Now it's time to fill the tank with water. To keep the new plants from shifting around, the first part needs to be done gently. We're going to use a jug and pour the water directly into my hand to control the flow. Next, to speed things up while still keeping the plants safe, we added a filter sponge on top of the plants and started pouring the water directly onto it. This made filling the tank way quicker. Everything was going smoothly until we moved the tank into its permanent spot. The shelves on this piece of furniture aren't very far apart, so suddenly our working area got a lot tighter. We were still trying to use the jug and filter sponge method, but now that the water level was higher, the sponge kept floating around everywhere. We had to improvise a bit, so we grabbed some tweezers and tried to hold it in place. It wasn't perfect, but it did the trick. Next, we're adding the dechlorinator, just like we always do, and adding some beneficial bacteria to help get the tank's ecosystem up and running smoothly. We're also going to be adding some fertilizer from APT to give our plants a boost and help them grow healthy and strong. Now it's time to put the heater back in. We're being careful not to splash too much water while doing it. We're also making sure it's fully submerged and pressing the suction cups so it hopefully stays in place this time. So this is what we have so far. The plants are looking really healthy. But now it's time to go get the CO₂ kit ready and set everything up. The CO₂ kit is for tanks up to 60 liters, which means this is more than enough for our little tank. This is the first time using it, so we're just going to be following the instructions step by step. The first step is simple. We'll just fill the bottle with 300 milliliters of hot water. Next, we put the cap on and shake the bottle vigorously, just as the instructions mention. What we're aiming for here is to have the powder completely dissolved. Now we need to leave the bottle at room temperature for at least 24 hours until the content inside turns into a solid mass. While that's setting, we also need to soak the CO₂ diffuser that comes with this kit. You can see it in the back soaking in the glass bowl. Now we'll place the sealing ring, this small plastic ring that sits inside the cap, and make sure everything is airtight. Next, we insert the airline tubing into the cap they provided. You really want to push this in as far as it'll go. The tighter the fit, the better. That way it won't pop off once the pressure starts building up. Let's go ahead and open the activator bag and see what's inside. Yeah, it's safe to say that this was actually the hardest part of the entire CO₂ setup. This bag did not want to be opened. In the end, we had to open the bag off camera. It was getting way too complicated to deal with. But now we can finally see what's inside. These small bags filled with the activator powder. Now we'll need to dissolve one of these small activator packs in 200 milliliters of lukewarm water. The water shouldn't be hotter than 35 degrees Celsius. We're checking with the thermometer and it's reading 32 degrees Celsius, so we're perfectly within the safe range. The next part of the instructions confused us a little bit. It says to leave the activator for 5 minutes and stir until dissolved. So not very clear. Do we wait 5 minutes and then stir, or stir during those 5 minutes? We weren't sure, so we just went with stirring for about 5 minutes and kept checking until everything was fully dissolved. Now it's time to add the activator solution to the bottle. As you can see, after 24 hours the contents inside have completely turned into a solid mass. That's exactly what we want. We inserted the gasket into the cap, making sure it sits properly so everything seals airtight. We then placed the cap onto the bottle and screwed it on tightly. Now we just need to connect the bottle to the CO₂ diffuser. We'll cut the airline tubing to roughly the length we need, so there's no excess hose lying around. Once that's done, we connect the tubing to the diffuser, making sure it's pushed on securely. Now we'll just need to wait for the CO₂ production to start. According to the instructions, this can take a few hours depending on the temperature. We also got the drop checker so we can keep an eye on the CO₂ levels in the tank. From what we've read online, if you want to control the CO₂ flow or even turn it off with a kit like this, you'd normally need to either cut the tubing and add a tap, or upgrade the system with an electrical solenoid and a timer. We haven't tried any of that yet since there are no fish in the tank right now. Our main focus is just boosting plant growth, so we're not worried about switching it off for the moment. We weren't sure if we got the weird or unusable drop checker because it took us forever to fill it with the liquid. It's a smaller drop checker made for a nano tank, so maybe tiny ones are just trickier to fill, or maybe there was something off with this particular one. Either way, it was definitely a test of patience. We're really excited to see how the plants grow with this CO₂ kit. Thank you for spending some time with us today. Let us know what you think of our Nano Dutch tank, and subscribe if you want to follow this project because we always share updates.